Welcome back to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. I am your host, Lauren, and in today's episode, I have Becca. She is a Akashic Records coach. Welcome, Becca. I'm so happy to have you here with us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to speak with you.
Yes. So kind of tell the listeners about kind of who you are and, what kind of empowered you to kind of go on this amazing spiritual journey that you're on right now.
Absolutely. So I'm Becca. I'm originally from England, but I'm currently in Canada. So that's my accent's a bit strange. I growing up in England, I always say the veil is very, very thin there. So we're very connected, whether we realize or not, to the other worlds, the other realms, whatever you want to call it. And so it's a very spiritual, very connected land. Even the cities are very, very spiritual, even if you don't realize it. There's lots of energy going through. So even as a child, I was one of those children that was at the bottom of the garden with the fairies. I had a really good imagination, still do. But I was always away. I was always off traveling in my mind, right? So the way I got into this was literally just a soul continuation into this life. So I was never sort of normal kind of child. I was always into magic and mysteries, and I loved mythology, and I just always wanted to dive into new topics. So that's literally how I started on the sort of esoteric and the healing modalities and everything. I was always learning different things like massage, and then I was learning astrology, and then I was learning tarot, and then I was learning crystals. I was always adding new things to my toolbox, and that's never going to change. I'm always going to keep adding. I'm always going to keep learning, even the things that I've had for decades. I'm going to always learn something new about it. And yeah, that's just me. I just have such a passion for the healing and the magical and for the spiritual.
Yeah. I love that. I was going to say, I'm very similar. I have always been really obsessed with astrology. I love human design. And I realized that when I learned human design, like 9 years ago, I like self taught myself. So people always ask me too, they're like, oh, are you a certified reader? And I'm like, no, I don't claim to be. I took human design in a way of like, this doesn't make any sense. People look at it and they're overwhelmed. It's just so much information. So I was like, here's my projectorness. How do I simplify this so people actually could use it in their daily life? Like just with anything, like people can use astrology, but that's a very complex system too. So it's like, why can't people? My thought to myself was, why can't I learn how to teach this in a way that people understand? Like very simple. I feel like that is huge because I mean, it's just energy, right? Like everything that you just said is all like energy. So it's like, you
Yeah.
just at the end of the day, you probably did that to figure out, to understand the world better, other people better, and then like of course yourself. So I love that. So I want to kind of talk about Akashic records. It's one of my favorite things that I when I got into um, the shamanic journey and stuff. I've always I didn't realize how much I used the Akashic records until I was going through soul retrieval and through the journey and realized, oh my
Mm.
goodness, this is the same thing that I've always done. It's just something different, It's just a different tool
Yeah.
or a different like way of like learning about it. So can you kind of like start out like from the beginning? Like what kind of led you to discover the Akashic records, and like how did you begin to transform your life from understanding the when discovering the Akashic records?
Yeah. So, like I said, I was always into all these different things, even as a child, and the Akashic Records was always lurking, like in my sort of field. And I was under the impression that it was more like a channeled mediumship kind of thing, where I would be sitting there saying, "Okay, Lauren, I'm in your records, and this is what I see." And I was like, well, I always I also kind of do that already with tarot cards and oracle cards and all of those kind of things. I do that modality already, and I never really thought of myself or claimed to be like a sort of psychic or a medium or anything like that. So I was like, that's not for me. Like I've got other things that I'd rather be doing. But it, like when you're meant to be doing something, it always keeps popping up, right? And so it would always come on online, or a friend would talk to me about it, or I would just see something about Akashic records, and I was like, yeah. And I had books on it. Okay, right, okay, whatever. Like it sounds interesting. It's not for me.
Yeah.
And then one day I found this teacher that he had gone into his own records and created this course from his records. And it was about teaching people to coach their clients in their own records. And so it's kind of like a spiritual life coaching he was teaching. And so I was like, well, that sounds interesting. Tell me more. And so the idea was that yes, like he teaches the students how to go into their own records and sort out their own lives. But then the whole point of this course was to get them to instruct the clients of how to go into their own records. So in a nutshell, what I do is I just kind of hold my client's hand energetically, and I help them get into their records. And I'm there with them. I see and hear and understand, but that's not my place to say, this is what I'm seeing and this is what is happening. I'm prompting, I'm suggesting, I'm saying, look over here, and what do you feel, and where do you feel it, and what's this guide telling you, and what does that mean? And if you don't understand, then obviously I tell you and I help you. But the whole point is not for me to say this relationship that you're in is toxic and maybe you need to put up some boundaries or you need to leave.
Right.
My job is to take you to the past lives, to take you to the blocks, to help you talk with your guides and have you say, oh my gosh, this relationship's super toxic and I need to do something about it. And what am I going to do about it? I'm going to do this about it. And that way I find that my clients, they then actually put that into action. Like that actually then takes hold in their physical lives. Whereas when I do tarot reading, thank you very much, that was really helpful, and then they forget it as soon as they walk out the door, right? Like they just, or they think, oh well, the tarot card said it's going to happen, so I can just sit back and let it happen. If they've done the record, they're like, I understand my role in it. I understand that it's my power and it's my choice and my ability to go out and to change this in my life. And so that's fascinating for me to watch the transformation there.
Yeah. So you said something about role. I feel like let's like kind of like back up on like role. I feel like that in itself is that word,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to um Akashic records, is really powerful. So like it's just a powerful tool, I think, in general. And especially I know for me when I went through here's me, like my victim mentality to my victor mentality of like this is this person's fault. This is this person's fault. This is this person's fault. Nothing's my fault. All that stuff. And I realized seeing and of course I had the same like a journey as they call it during the shamanic journey is I see it and I was like I can't unsee it. And it's not like it's like this video that's playing or it's like this book and I'm looking at this contract that clearly I signed or whatever it is, like whatever that is. But and the same thing like you said, um the one of my dear friends that was placed me with the shamanic rites was telling me like go look over there. And it's like it was like past life because I kept looking at the left side of my eye and it felt uncomfortable. Same thing with like brain mapping. Like when you look out of the left side, it's like you're looking at a spot in your brain, consciousness, whatever, that is uncomfortable. And I was like, I don't want to look over there. I don't. And it was because I was avoiding, coming in layman's terms, I was avoiding what I knew was my fault. And I just couldn't take accountability. And I just realized, wow, like even me today, of course, I take responsibility and accountability, if it's part of something I need to. But I realize humans, it's very uncomfortable to, look at that. And, it being in a setting of like Akashic Records, you then see the role that you actually play in every part of your experience. Now, I'm not saying, I don't want to trigger people by saying that if they had major abuse or if they had, some like major trauma, that's not your fault. But it was something you had to experience, and the responsibility, right, is your responsibility. So can you kind of talk a little bit about the role that you obviously play in every experience, and how has that helped your clients uncover past lives, like causing maybe let's just say a block in a current reality, like in your current reality?
Yeah, so um, I can never tell you what we're going to do when we go in the records. Even if you say, this is what I want to explore, and I think, oh, well, I've done that a million times, and we've always gone to a past life with that, for example. We could go up there and your guides say, no, we're actually going to do it this way. Or we're going to, especially things like the contracts and things that you were speaking on. Usually with a contract, we go to the past life where you decided on that contract or that vow. So the difference with that is a contract is usually made with other souls, and a vow is one made just to yourself. So, but they're all very, very similar. And usually we go to that past life, we discover what what was the reasoning behind doing that. So, and you're also saying about like soul retrieval and stuff. So that could also be part of it as well. Like your soul decided to cut off maybe a gift, like healing gift or something where they want to sever something from your ability to carry on with it. Um, anyway, so what you do is you go in, you see that past life, you can communicate with yourself in that past life and explain to them, comfort them, tell them that you understand why they did whatever it was, or why they cut off or they made this soul contract. And then you can do a healing with them. And then you can go back into your records again out of that past life. And usually that is then presented to you in like a scroll, and it's got your contract on there and it's got your signature or your mark or whatever. And we usually rip it up and throw it into the fire. And then as it turns to ash, then it's like null and void. And the reason that you would do that is usually because you've already completed it like many lifetimes ago, and for some reason your soul's still holding on to it like a comfort blanket, and you really didn't need to suffer in this life and past lives since. Other times, maybe you pick too many things, and this one's just too much to add to all these other burdens that you have, and you just want to release it. Like you don't want to learn that lesson anymore, or you want to postpone it for this life as well. You can also do that if you're like, yeah, like I kind of chose way too many things, and I just need to condense it a little bit, and you can then sort of shelve a couple of things for a future life if you want to. There's so many different ways of going about it, and I've seen so many different ways of doing it, so many different reasons, and also to go really weird, it's not always human lives either. It can be other realms, other planets, other um states of being. Like I did a lady literally yesterday, and she was just energy. It was just this energy form of her. She wasn't a solid physical being. She was just this energy. It was beautiful.
Oh, wow.
um yeah, I've just seen so many different things, and for me, I have seen and learned so much on this journey with other people that I never ever would have learned or experienced because my soul hasn't necessarily been through that. So I've learned and seen so much through just helping other people. Is such an amazing, humbling experience as well, to have that honor of guiding people and helping them through things that I didn't even necessarily even know existed, you know?
Oh, yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say the first time I've ever, when you said about the energy form, I mean, it makes sense, right? But I was, but you're,
Yeah.
Wow. Like I've never experienced that even through journeys that I've done with people. It's more of like you said, going back to like the vows, because at first I was like, okay, so like I've seen my contract, I've seen all of my karmic stuff I needed to clear out, which when you said postponing, I'm like, oh, at some point in my journey, I feel like, what did I choose? Why does this feel so heavy? And I feel like if somebody would have told me, hey, you don't have to clear out all of this lifetime, you know,
Yeah.
you could postpone it. I'd be like, oh, thank God. But I feel like if somebody, obviously, I probably would have avoided a lot of my own stuff that I needed to do. It's just probably why now I'm like, God, that would have been so easier. But the universe probably knew that no, don't tell her that, because then she's not going to do what she needs to do. And then she's going to complain that she's still in the same spot or whatever. But you're right. When I thought, I mean, I think people listening too, depending on like what they know about Akashic records and all that, is I thought that vows and that they were the same thing. So then I was like, oh, so why do I feel like through past lives, or I looked at past lives, or if I had a, past life regression or something like that, I would always be, you know, rich or, whatever. And in this lifetime, maybe the last 5 lifetimes, I've always been poor. I was a shaman, but then I would always like abuse my power from all of those past lives. So I feel like when I started doing my business, there was a huge block that I didn't even realize was there. And then I realized, oh my goodness, everybody's blocks are past life related, and I don't even think they realize it, because I've never experienced abusing my power. I've never used money to guilt people into doing something. But then I'm like, so why do I have this huge memory of this happening? Like, it didn't make any sense to me, which is then I was like, somebody was like, oh, that's just past life. And I was like, what are you talking about? Past life? What do you mean? Like, let me see this. I need to see this, and then I seen it and I was like, oh my goodness. So it was like this lifetime understanding that, along with my vows and what I needed to clear out and all that stuff. You're right. Like, my soul was holding on to things that I'm like, why did I have to suffer so long? Why was that still attached to me? Like, I learned that lesson. I repeated that lesson, I think 100 times, it probably in every like past life, but it was kind of like you said, you had to do it. I probably didn't do a healing. I probably didn't do a release. And it's like, that's why it's like so important. So thank you for
Yeah.
saying that, because that definitely resonated with me when I was like, why am I still having, let's just call them symptoms. Let me just have
Yeah.
like these symptoms to what I experienced in a past life, because, and that, you know, the example that you just gave us was because it was unresolved in the past life. Could be karma,
Yeah.
could be trauma, whatever it is. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
when you experience like soul journeys or soul missions, I should say, through like the records,
Yeah.
how can you begin to discover like why maybe a soul chose this reincarnation, or why they chose to come here and do what they do, like, or they're doing what they do now?
Yeah, so again, a number of ways. It could literally just be chatting with your guides, like in your records building, which kind of looks for most people like a library of some description. And you kind of just sit down at the fireplace in these comfy chairs and have a cup of tea or whatever and have a chat with your guides. Sometimes they will show you in like books. Some people have even had like sort of more like computer screens and TVs, but usually it's like a book more often than not. Or we do past life or even just memories in this life. We can go in and we can um not relive, but kind of view it. And sometimes you're in your body or your past life or this life body.
Mhm.
Sometimes you're outside of it. But either way, we end up usually stepping out of the body and actually speaking to the younger you in this life or the past self. And really having a conversation, really having a healing session. It's like a therapy session with them. And it's so healing because I don't know if you're aware of the whole time not existing thing. So your past lives, your future lives, and your current life are all simultaneously
Happening.
happening.
Yeah.
So when you're healing a past life, it's actually reverberating throughout all of your other lives, including this life and all your future lives. It is this huge um energetic shift in your soul. That's probably the easiest way of saying it. It's like your soul shifts, and
Yeah.
then that then is dispersed throughout all of your lives. Like your soul is having um lots of different games being played out, like sort of video games being played out over all these different timelines. And so you've got the one soul with everything playing out. And so it's kind of helping all the other lives, all the other games happening are all up leveling when you sort out the blocks and the limiting beliefs, the traumas even. Like we choose, and again, you know, it's very hard to talk with some people about this, but like we choose certain things to show up in our lives, or we choose, because it's never a straight line. It's never like, well, I'm choosing this life and that's it, and it's like fate and I have to go that direction. There are points in your life that you've put events or just forks in the road where you with your free will get to choose. And that doesn't mean that if you take the wrong or the longer or the harder one that you can't then course correct and come back to the more optimal timeline. It just might take a little bit longer to get around there, but you choose, you have your free will, you have your choice. And you, so let's take something like a traumatic event, and that could be something like, say, a car crash or an accident or something that's out of anyone's control, or it's like another soul is hurting you in some way, or something bad has happened to you. Well, how is your soul? Your soul wants to know how you're going to react to that. Like you can fall into depression, you can think that life's not worth living, you can think yourself this terrible person and unworthy, or you can go through the healing process. You can, and it takes a lot of energy and a lot of self work, but you can go through that healing thing, and you can then maybe go on to help others that have also experienced a similar thing, and you become like this mentor or this just someone that helps. Or even if you're not helping other people with it, you just have grown as a soul. You take this trauma and you learn from it and you grow and you make your life better because of the lessons that you learn in this terrible, terrible time in your life. And
Yeah.
so your soul put it in to discover how it would react, how, like, how strong is your soul, how, what choices will it make. And there's never a right or wrong. That's the other thing. Like, even if you do the worst possible imagined thing and you hurt yourself because of this, and then you end up ending your life because of it, that's not wrong. It's not what your soul wanted. It wanted you to learn, it wanted you to grow,
Yeah.
but you're not going to get punished for that. You're going to have like this whole time of healing hopefully after, and then you can maybe choose to try again in another lifetime under the same circumstances or similar, and
Yeah.
hopefully be strong enough later to deal with it in a better way or learn from it in a better way. But there's never this great punishment, even if you yourself in a past life or this life are the person causing the harm. You have done that for a reason as well. You've maybe had an agreement with another soul because that soul wanted to experience that bad thing, so it needs another soul to agree to be that bad or evil person, like, for really
Yes.
generic terms.
Yeah.
They needed a soul to take that role on, to ignite um, that lesson for them. It gets very confusing, and it takes a lot of stepping back to understand fully what's going on, and that can be extremely difficult, especially in a lot of situations.
Hey there, I just wanted to take a quick moment to share with all of you spiritual rebels and fempreneurs. If you've been craving a space where you can build wealth, heal trauma, and rise alongside like-minded women, I got something for you to hear about. I'm excited to invite you into the Enlightened Misfits Sisterhood. This is a low-cost, high-impact group membership designed exclusively for spiritual fempreneurs who know they need accountability and support to create sustainable wealth, but aren't ready to dive into a one-on-one mentorship. In this membership, you'll get monthly calls, rituals, healing sessions, and workshops to break through your self-doubt and build confidence so that you can consistently sell your offers and make money. This is also a collaborative private Facebook community where you make lifelong connections with other women who are just as serious as hitting their goals. And my personal guidance as your intuitive human design business guide and trauma healer, ensuring you stay aligned and on track with your business goals. Plus, you'll get free access to all my paid workshops and masterclasses, along with exclusive VIP pricing for my one-on-one Voxer membership. This membership is all about helping you heal the sabotaging behaviors blocking your abundance and using your human design to create a business that feels amazing to run. Imagine waking up excited to serve your clients and knowing that you have the exact support you need to hit every single one of your business goals every single month. So if you're ready to rise and build wealth with a sisterhood of spiritual misfits, make sure you click the registration link in the description box. Right now, the investment is just $88 a month, but the price will increase to $197 a month. Join today to unlock exclusive rates and get access to next month's kickoff call. Let's get back to today's episode, but remember, your next level is just one decision away. Join the sisterhood and let's rise together.
Like taking a step back, because when I'm listening to you say this stuff, I'm like, this part of what you're saying has been a huge part of my own awareness, my own perspective shifts and stuff of like all of the stuff that I've been through, because I was able to take a step back and be like, again, going back to the role that I play, obviously, I'll give you an example, like my ex-husband. There was a lot of abuse there. However, I'm sure in his perspective, there was a lot of abuse on my part too. Like, and my current husband, and I say this, it's funny how I say my current husband, like he's not my, it's like this trend on TikTok. It's like, oh yeah, my current husband. And then anyway, it was just funny that it said, okay, let's go back. So my husband now had said to me, Lauren, how about if you are the one that abused him in a past life?
Yeah.
And as much as I want to defend myself and be like, oh, I would never do that, how do I know? Like, how do I know? Because I was the one that felt the abuse this lifetime, or I was the one that, he cheated on and treated me badly, and I still stayed. And it's because I could see there was a deeper knowing of like, I feel like I can help him. Feel like I can fix him. No, like that's not, I feel like I could, I had empathy, and he can't feel empathy, or he doesn't feel bad for his actions, or whatever the case is. I feel like this lifetime, I know one of my lessons was to be able to have compassion and empathy for people, because obviously before I would just hurt people or be that evil person and not be able to feel what I'm actually doing to them, so then it's my time, this lifetime, to feel it. So when he had said that, it was like, wow, okay. So that was that experience. I can move past it. I can let go of it. I could stop. Like, because I feel like I've noticed a lot of people, especially, it's just part of the journey, right? The healing journey is you have to hate the person. You have to hate yourself. You don't always have to hate yourself, but you always blame yourself, or like there's a process. Same thing with like grieving, right? It's a process. There's no timeline. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just perspective. You can look at it from this way, you can look at it from this way, but I feel like, what you just explained can give people a different perspective on looking at it. Like, how about if you, or, they could come work with you, like do a journey with you. Like, how about if you were the one in a past life that did this to them, and now it's your turn to feel it. So you can kind of clear out the karma and stop treating people like shit. Like, that's pretty much how I got it. Like, stop treating people the how you don't want to be treated. And I feel like, to be honest, if a human doesn't learn that, you're going to keep doing that, right? Like, would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also good to also say that if you are sort of in an abusive whatever now because you were the abuser in the past life, you're not the victim now because it's a punishment. It's
Right.
because more likely it's because you've had that soul contract with each other where you both wanted to experience what it was like to be the victim, but you also, and this is where it gets really weird, your soul wanted to experience what it was like to be the abuser. It
Right.
wants to understand all of it, and that's the thing. So the world that we're in now is 3D, which means that we have the polarity, we have the good with the bad, we have the sadness with the happiness, we have all of these different emotions. Like daily, we could like it's like everyone's got bipolar, right? It's like one moment you're super happy and then you're like super depressed or stressed. You've got this constant energy and emotions always, and they're so polar opposite sometimes. And so this realm, this world is something quite rare for a soul to experience. Many souls, they just have the good stuff, for want of a better word. They've never
Right.
experienced sadness and grief and depression and anger. And so the souls that come here want to experience that. And again, that sounds really strange. Like, why would my soul want to know what it's like to grieve and to feel anger and to have all these bad experiences? But that's because it's how your soul grows, it's how it's learning. And only the really, really strong souls can come to a density like this, like 3D and 2D densities, because it's so, first of all, so constricting because you're in a body, you're in like a meat suit, and your soul isn't used to that. And so that on its own, whether you have a beautiful life, you have all this money and you never suffer, your soul's still kind of suffering because it's in a prison, right? It's in a body that it has to learn to love and to work with, and to have that constriction. It can't just fly around anymore. It has to be contained. So that alone is a lot of pressure on the soul. Then adding in all of those lovely soul life lessons and karma and contracts and vows that your soul, especially the new ones to this kind of density, take on way too much because they're like, it's going to be super easy. And then they get here and they're like, I made a mistake. There's way too many things and I can't deal with it. And that's when a lot of people get into depression and hopelessness and stuff, because their soul took on way too much for them to deal with. They just didn't realize it was going to be this hard. And that's the thing, this lifetime, no matter what the cards give to you, whatever your soul decided for you, is going to be hard on your soul.
Yeah. I love, thank you for explaining that, because I feel like that will kind of give people a lot of clarity to
Mhm.
maybe why they feel or why they had an experience in their life that they had depression or they felt like hopeless. I feel like that's really started my initial, I guess, spiritual awakening. I mean, like, I feel like I was always spiritually aware. When I always like came out of my mom. It's like, I always joke. I'm like, I came out of my mom and I just could see things, hear things, whatever. But of course I picked my experiences. I picked, to experience different things. And like that added, let me not be this person, or I can't be this person because people are going to think I'm weird or I don't fit in. And it's just like, okay, it's just now it's like more people than not are like, oh yeah, I've always felt like that. I'm like, oh, thank God. Where were you when I was a kid? You were obviously thinking the same thing. We are all on the same collective wavelength thinking like, what is happening? But yeah, like you're right. I didn't think of it that way. I guess that's a really good way of thinking it, that if you feel hopeless or you feel like depressed, or, you have thoughts of suicide, or at some point it's like it's easier. So for me in my story, I always thought, oh, it's just this is too hard and I'm just going to take the easy way out, because to be honest, it is the easy way out, and mine didn't work. All three times mine didn't work, thank God. But it was just like, I would have to probably relive a lot of that in another past life, or in a future life, and then maybe my soul knew that wasn't good, that was going to be too hard for me, or whatever. I don't know, I forget the actual reasoning. But I was like, okay, so I always like to do the whole spiritual bypass. Like, I would be like, I can do it this way. This is the easiest way. And then I'm actually doing it the hard way because now I'm learning it in a longer stretch of time. So I stopped doing that like 5 years ago. And then I realized, oh, if I just actually accept, surrender, and allow and trust that this is just how it's supposed to happen and stop trying to control the outcome, I don't block myself anymore, right? So I think a lot of us, that I'm sure you can resonate with that. You probably have experience like, oh, I'm just going to do it. This is the easy way. And it's like my higher self is like, no, we're not doing it that way. But my ego is like, this is what we're doing. No, this is not what we're doing. It's kind of like the battle that you have. You're only fighting yourself. You're not, even though people think that they're fighting other people, right? You're not. You're fighting yourself. So stop. Right?
Yeah.
Like, just stop it. Um, yeah. So yeah, thank you for bringing that into people's awareness, because I feel like that sentence, I mean, you've gave so much wisdom, but just that in itself, even for me, like, wow, oh my gosh, that actually is the reason why I feel the way I do. And then you could stop focusing on, I feel depressed, I have anxiety, I am, and stop saying, okay, this is what happened. This is what I did. Well, let's maybe hang up some of those lessons for now and let's do this.
Absolutely.
So for anybody listening who might feel blocked, maybe on lost, or unsure of their next steps, what would you say the records might reveal to them or bring clarity and healing for them right now?
Well, yeah, the records are just unlimited. Like, you could literally go in numerous times a day for the whole of your life or the whole of your soul, and there's always going to be something for you to do and deal with or to learn. So I have clients that are super spiritual. I have clients that are complete atheists and non-believers, and all of
Okay.
these people are able to go into their records. All of them experience them and understand and gain from them. So that's fascinating in itself. But yeah, they what happens is, I can never tell, like I said at the beginning, I can never tell you what we're going to do in the records. Even if I think, oh, I've done that a million times, I know the drill, your records, your guides might want to do it differently, or just put in like a little curveball for me. Or sometimes we go up because my client says, I want to deal with my career. Okay, great, so let's go up and do your career. And the guides just say, no, we're not doing career today because we've got to sort out a money block first, or we've got to sort out the relationship with their mother first, or whatever it is. Like, and when I first started doing this, I was like, no, my client's paying me to sort out their career. Like, let's just do the career. And they're saying, no, that's not what we're doing today. And it's not just me telling the client that, the client's also getting, oh, no, I think we're meant to be going over here or going through this door instead. And, and so we end up doing something completely different than what the client actually intended on doing. But afterwards, the client's like, yeah, wow, I didn't realize I still had that block, or I didn't realize I needed to confront that. That really helped, or I really feel a shift in my field. Or they come back like a week later and say, so ever since we did that record, this has happened, that's happened, this has happened, and that's happened, and it's completely changed, and it's exactly what they said to me in the records. And so all that rambling to say is that I can literally never tell anybody how it's going to work or what it can do. I start it all up, and my job, as I said, is to guide you. So I'll start you off with like a sort of grounding and a running of energy, and then I say what we call a prayer or a key, which opens up the records for us. And then we do like a sort of journey down a path to your records building. And that is more really for me to gauge how you're experiencing and how you're visualizing, how you're receiving, how you're trusting in yourself. And will you need a little bit of extra help, or have you got this already and I can just sit back and relax a
Yeah.
little bit? And then once we get into the records, then I kind of help move the journey along a bit. I'm in the background chatting to your guides and doing some little behind the scenes stuff, but I'm getting you to do the journey. I'm getting you to make the choices. And even if you've gone in saying, I want to do X, Y, and Z, when you're confronted with it, when you're shown the reason why, when you're given the opportunity to null and void it or whatever it is, something in you might just be like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. I'm not ready to confront that. I'm not ready to release that yet. And you're not going to get punished for that. You're not going to get told off for that. You're shown and given the opportunity to do these things in the records because at a soul level, you are ready. Sometimes at a human level, you're not, and that's fine. You'll get given more opportunities in this lifetime, or maybe you don't need to until lifetimes ahead.
Right.
But you're never going to get punished for that. You're never going to get punished for saying no. Yeah, so I'm just rambling on because it's just always just so interesting, and I go off
No,
on tangents.
though I think the process of how you do it is really important. I was going to ask that, but you just started, talking about it. So you must have heard my thought of like, I want to ask her because I feel like a lot of people have this question of like, okay, so what is this session? Okay, so like, they see stuff on social media or people talk about it all the time, but I just feel like you have to really be able to trust that person,
Yeah.
especially because I've had, if there's like a past life block or like it's a client that I work together or something like that, and I'm like, why is she not getting what I'm saying? Like this is just a normal session. And then I hear past life and I'm like, okay, so like here's me like, okay, what about past life? It's a past life block. I was like, oh, okay. So it's a past life block. And it's like, okay. So then I'm like, well, then I try to tell them, let's do a journey together and kind of like, explain it a little bit. But the logical mind can't wrap your ego can't one doesn't like to let go of control, doesn't like change, whatever. So it's like, wait a minute, where are we going? What's happening? So it's like, it's nice when you can kind of walk people through it because it's true. Like, could you imagine the all the things that you desire or say that you want? Obviously, you already have them in a past life or previous life or current life or whatever, future life. That's where it's coming from, you don't just
Yeah.
randomly wake up and like, I desire this, I desire that. You already have it and you just need to get to that, right? In this lifetime. So you can feel it or have it or whatever, but it's like the way that it's like you say want and the universe is like, oh yeah, you want that. And then it doesn't happen. But if you say desire, it's all like, this is what I desire. And then you work towards that. I feel like, that's just my quantum healing, I love quantum healing. Quantum anything, I should say. But yeah, like you're explaining all of that, I feel like will really help people, especially the people listening to this. I know I've had multiple conversations probably within the last couple of weeks about, Lauren, can you do more? Like, can you talk more about Akashic records? I think, well, I'm not going to, but I know that there's people on the podcast that will. Because that's what they do and they're really good at it. I see your people watching this on YouTube. I see your little dragon, the dragon deck. Is that
Oh,
tarot?
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
tarot. Yeah.
I love the dragon tarot. Okay. I kept looking
Yeah,
at it. I have to ask her about that.
yeah, it's a really lovely one. Like it's literally dragons in all of it. I actually bought it for a friend and ended up keeping it.
I love the dragons really have helped me along my own shamanic journey, because it was really scary and felt scary, but it was more of like, oh, I have dragon next to me. It was more like, you know, clearing out stuff and burning stuff. It's like dragon fire and like the dragons say that, like it's all that stuff. So yeah, I love the learning about the dragons that caught my eye. I was like, I like that deck. So
Well,
where?
when I was first,
Oh,
sorry.
no, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say when I was first learning Akashic records, I obviously had to have case studies.
Yeah.
And one lady, I did a session with her, and she went into this cave, and there was a dragon there that was guarding all of her sort of secrets and desires, and keeping them all safe. And she was like, oh, it's a dragon. I don't like dragons. I don't want a dragon. I don't like this dragon. And I'm like, but he's yours. Like, he's protecting you. He's lovely. Like, and he was so lovely. This dragon was, yeah, I mean, dragons. But this one was, it was so powerful, but so gentle, and he was really, really good for her. And she was like, no, no, I don't like this. I don't want him. And obviously I'm learning, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Anyway, I was working in a metaphysical shop at the time, and she came into my shop and she's like, I just want to tell you that I went in and I did a meditation on my own, and I went back to that dragon, and we're now best friends. I love him. Like, I set him free now and then to go and fly around the world, and then he can come back whenever he wants to help guard my stuff for me. 'Cause she said, and when he flies away, I rummage through and I see what I can get rid of and what I need to keep. And so when he comes back, he can just guard the things that are necessary. And I'm like, this is fantastic. This is amazing. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, my experience with the dragon is, I forget exactly what dragon it is, but it's a white one. And it was more when I was in the upper world in the shamanic journey of like my power, my spiritual gifts, my psychic abilities, all that stuff. So it's like that dragon helped me kind of clear out stuff of like not understanding my power, not understanding my psychic abilities, all that stuff. So it's like more of like protective in that way. But you're right, like when I had seen this dragon, it was like, wow, this is, I don't know if you've watched Game of Thrones, the dragons and all that. Like legit, I felt like Khaleesi on the dragon, because it's like I have these dragons that I could just go tell, they protect me, and like I could just go fly on them and like go to them whenever I need them. And it's like, but it's very healing, but it's really powerful healing. Like when it
Yeah.
comes to, when you ask them for healing, it's like I need to clear out, chains to me, or, people that bind their energy that I have no idea about, or like a past relationship or something like that. It's like when I started learning about that, I was like, oh my God, like that scary feeling was of like, I have to now look at my shadows, but it's more of like the dragon would, like you said, protect those secrets, or those protect until you're ready,
Yeah.
because obviously a dragon is a very powerful being. They can hold that, versus here's me, my little soul. It's like, no, I don't want to do that right now. Like, no. So yeah, like, I mean, being scared is like a normal feeling. When people tell me they're scared, I'm like, that's a normal feeling. If you don't feel
Yeah.
scared, I'd be like, are you okay? You okay? You're seeing a dragon. Are you okay? How do you feel right now? Because this is your first encounter. I don't know. Right? Yeah. That's just my experience. I'm glad that I'm not the only one that experienced that, because I always like talk about it with other people, and people are like, nope, haven't experienced that. I'm like, oh, okay, never mind. You don't know what I'm talking about. So it's nice to have somebody else that experiences that. It seems like there's a couple other podcast guests that have worked with dragons too, which um is they're like, they understand, they know, they work with them daily, or um whatever, and it's like they're much more connected with all the dragons. I just have a personal dragon that I work with, so it's not like, or if it's like a healing that a dragon comes through and I'm like, this ain't my dragon. Whose dragon is
Yeah.
it? Like, and it's usually, I'm like, who are you? Like, why are you here? And it's usually that other person's dragon. So I'm like, oh, you have a dragon too? And it's like, they're like, no. I'm like, oh, okay. It's like, not my dragon. My dragons usually aren't like the red ones, or, mine are like white and blue and purple, and they're like the mystical ones.
Oh,
They're all like the,
beautiful.
the little like fairy ones. They're
Yeah.
not the red ones. They're not those big ones.
Well, there's so many different types, right? Like, people just think
Yeah,
dragon and think like Game of Thrones kind of thing, but it's not
yeah,
necessarily
just
that
those.
kind of dragon, right? Like, there's so many different types. It's like different types of dogs, right? Like you can have
Yeah.
all these different breeds of dog. Same
Yeah.
thing with dragons. There's so many different types, right? And so your dragon might not look like, the big scary ones in Game of Thrones, or it could just
Right.
be like this sort of air one that's sort of more like the Chinese dragons kind of thing. And
Yeah.
and so it's something like that, or a water dragon. Like different elements as well are in there, right? So it doesn't necessarily need to be this big scary like the one in Sleeping Beauty guarding the castle
Yeah.
with the big fire
Yeah.
breathing kind of thing. It could be kind of a whimsical one, right? It could be more of like, say, like a fairy kind of one, like a smaller one, a magical one, a very sort of gentle kind of energy to it, rather than this big fierce protector one.
Right.
Yeah, there's so many different types that there's so many that you might have that aren't what you would necessarily think of as a dragon. And that's
Right.
also what's really interesting with things when you go into the records or when you do meditations and stuff, to know that it's not your imagination. It's when you go in with wanting an answer, or I'm going to go and see my dragon, and you're imagining this dragon, and you go in and you get a different answer, or you get a completely different dragon, maybe even one that you weren't even aware of, and then you Google it and you're like, oh, that's a thing, I didn't even know that was a dragon, or
Yeah.
anything like that. So that really, really helps with the I'm not making it up, is when you're not getting what you expect in there. So it's not your imagination, it's not wishful thinking, because you're like, that's not what I wanted. I wanted something else. And it's like you're trying your best to change it and morph it into the thing that you want it to
Right.
be, and it's not changing. And you're like, so I guess I'm not making it up. I guess there's some kind of truth to this, and this is actually real, and the information that I'm getting is what I need to hear and not what I want to hear.
Yes. I was gonna say thank you for saying that too, because every single time I'm like, I want to go meet my dragon, or I need this, or I need that. It's usually, and I feel like mine are the purple ones, or like, like the white. It's because it's usually something tied with my emotions, something tied with like, maybe self worth or something like that. So sometimes it's always, no, you need to, this is, you know, my, my main dragon is white, but that's more for protection and just my main spirit guide when I'm in the upper world, So it's like I don't necessarily always, there's totally I have tons of different like spirit animals, like my dragon or my like a cheetah and jaguar. They're usually my ground animals. They're the ones that I take when I have to go through shadow work or something. Usually the ones that are helping me there. Of course, it's very bougie, as I say. There's usually like an amethyst crystal around his neck or whatever. He, she, whoever, whatever neck. So it's like, but that's usually what I see. Now I want to focus on my dragon, but you're right. Like it's not because I feel like when I first started, it was like I was then trying to control that too, and it's like you can't control things here. This is not the 3D Earth anymore. You cannot control things here. But it was very just freeing to like to allow like whatever comes through, because that's exactly what I needed. And it's just like I feel like when you have another animal that's powerful there, it helps. It just helps me anyway. It helped me anyway to know that, oh, okay, so it's not me against the whole world. I have this whatever like spirit animal or whatever thing was there, to help too. So I'm sure a lot of your clients think that the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can people find you? Where can they? I'll make sure your links are in the description box here if you're watching this on YouTube, and then if you're listening to this, you can just click below in the description box. But where can they find you?
So I'm on Instagram and Facebook. Instagram is Holistic Becca, and Facebook is Ember Healing, which is the name of the umbrella company that has everything that I do. And yeah, and from there, like the bio has like Linktree, which has like the link to my website, any events coming up, any freebies, and also if people want to do like a 30-minute consultation, where we just literally just chat about whatever it is that you want to chat about. And whether you end up working with me or not, like hopefully I've put you in some kind of like next step forward, or I've recommended something that maybe I don't do, but I've recommended that to you as well. And just a way for you to start stepping forward into the next stages of what you desire, I should say, to get. So
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, you're one. I feel like that's the same thing. Unless you're saying you want money, that's not coming. If you
Yeah,
want money and you're saying I want money, the universe is like, we're not giving that to you. What's
exactly.
money?
Yeah.
I don't understand why you guys want money in the 3D. Why you guys want so much money?
And then you have to shift it to abundance and get over all of the abundance blocks first, and then you can
Yeah,
let the
because
money flow. It's energy.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, because like I've had obviously tons of conversations with my guides about, but I need money. This is what I need. And it's like, no, what is like, I think which is my main spirit guide, which is my dad's dad. I finally figured out his face because I would see his face, but I didn't know who he is, just random man. But it was my dad's grandfather. So it was like I just found that out like 6 months ago, and I was like, oh my god. So I would call him I would say George, and I would see his face, and I'm like, oh, that is him. Oh my goodness. So it was, but he's like, what? They're like, what's you money? You need money. Like that doesn't matter here. Like money, So it's like you need to focus on this, and I'm like, no, 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 no. That's not what I want to do. I don't want to do that. So yeah, it's like they're like we understand it because obviously they've all been human, but they're like, that's not the way you get that.
Yeah. Yeah. They have a different perspective now that they're a guide, right?
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm like thinking to myself, I know you were part of like back when it was like the Cold War and like not having money. And, I know all those experiences. And I'm sure you remember. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us on today's episode on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and make sure you check out all of Becca's links to go connect with her and follow her over on social media. And you share this with somebody that you feel that will gain knowledge from listening. Stay tuned for more captivating conversations in the future. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you next time.